Getting good at games, man. Come on, man. Look, it's the process. Nigga get good at games. Then you try to teach your boy what you gotta do. Then you run into, man, it's just a video game. Nigga, ain't nobody trying to do all that. You like, bro, what? But you play this every day, 24 hours of the day. So now you trying to get into the mix of teaching your niggas like, man, this is how the game and shit work. This is how they doing it. This is how you get good. And nobody's willing to invest that time to learn. So you got a bunch of niggas who jumping on here playing daily, 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 but nobody's learning the basics to how to actually get better. It's just in the mix, just jumping, doing anything. Nobody's learning the fundamentals, the foundation, the nothing. So now you rising through the ranks and niggas is hating on you like, man, you think you better than everybody else. I'm proving myself with the accolades, with the consistency, everything I'm doing to get myself at a better level every time. I'm reading, I'm researching, I'm doing. I'm reading, I'm researching, I'm practicing. Because this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm on 24/7, right? This is what I'm investing my time into to test my skills. I'm testing my skills while these niggas is just playing, having fun. So now you get into the mix where you just give it, here the sauce, use this. Niggas is trying to combat you like, man, why is that the sauce? Why is that so special? You like, all right, bro. Then you do find somebody, right, who willing to listen, who willing to understand, and they decent already, so they can kind of get where you coming from. But then you give them the sauce, and they like, man, I ain't even got time. I got other shit to do. So the dudes that's actually right on edge, ready to understand how this shit work, they actually busy with other shit. They too busy. Even if they figure out how it works, they too busy to execute it because they just like, all right, that's cool. So you, man, you be in this loop like, God damn, bro. You know what I'm saying? You can't find nobody. You can't teach them. You can't build a squad. Oh, I seen them playing over there with the kids, so I didn't know.
Sounded simple enough. On these silent retreats, sweating through t-shirts in the middle of winter. I take naps every chance I got because it was really hard work. Actually, it was exhausting. The instruction was simple enough, but I was missing something really important.
Oh, you was going.
Hard to pay attention. Well, studies show that even when we're really trying to pay attention to something, like maybe this talk, at some point about
Switch
half of
chair to
us
that
will
one.
drift off into a daydream or have this urge to check our Twitter feed. So what's going on here?
Hey man, can you tell her to can you close the door or something? She all in my
Learning process is called
stream
positive
background.
reinforcement. It's one of the most basic nervous systems known to man.
I say it nicely.
This reward-based learning process is called positive and negative reinforcement and basically goes like this. We see some food that looks good, our brains currently known in science, one that's conserved back to the most basic nervous systems known to man. This reward-based learning process is called positive and negative reinforcement and basically goes like this. We see some food that looks good, our brain says calories, survival. We eat the food, we taste it, it tastes good. And especially with sugar, our body sends a signal to our brain that says, remember what you're eating and where you found it. We lay down this context-dependent memory and learn to repeat the process next time. See food, eat food, feel good, repeat. Trigger, behavior, reward.
You gotta move the bike, Papa.
Well, after a while, our creative brains say, you know what? I can use this for more than just remembering the.
Let me see, because I can't hear. So let me move this bike out this way so I can hear my video. Woo! Just trying to help myself.
You know, next time you feel bad, why don't you try eating something good so you'll feel better? We thank our brains for the great idea. Try this and quickly learn that if we eat chocolate or ice cream when we're mad or sad, we feel better. Same process, just a different trigger. Instead of this hunger signal coming from our stomach, this emotional signal, feeling sad, triggers that urge to eat. Maybe in our teenage years, we were a nerd at school, and we see those rebel kids outside smoking, we think, hey, I want to be cool, so we start smoking. The Marlboro Man wasn't a dork, and that was no accident. See cool, smoke to be cool, feel good. Repeat. Trigger, behavior, reward. And each time we do this, we learn to repeat the process, and it becomes a habit. So later, feeling stressed out triggers that urge to smoke a cigarette or to eat something sweet. Now with these same brain processes, we've gone from learning to survive to literally killing ourselves with these habits. Obesity and smoking are among the leading preventable causes of morbidity and mortality in the world. So back to my breath. What if instead of fighting our brains or trying to force ourselves to pay attention, we instead tapped into this natural reward-based learning process, but added a twist? What if instead we just got really curious about what was happening in our momentary experience? I'll give you an example. In my lab, we studied whether mindfulness training could help people quit smoking. Now, just like trying to force myself to pay attention to my breath, they could try to force themselves to quit smoking. And the majority of them had tried this before and failed, on average 6 times. Now, with mindfulness training, we dropped the bit about forcing and instead focused on being curious. In fact, we even told them to smoke. What? Yeah, we said, go ahead and smoke. Just be really curious about what it's like when you do. And what did they notice? Well, here's an example from one of our smokers. She said, mindful smoke smells like stinky cheese and tastes like yuck. Now, she knew cognitively that smoking was bad for her. That's why she joined our program.
That's the difference, man. But like I be reading shit and be knowing shit and doing shit and just be like, that shit don't make sense to the average person. But nothing makes sense to the average person. Calculus and algebra and fucking nothing makes sense if you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So just because it don't make sense to the average person don't mean a nigga don't know what he talking about. It just means they don't know what you talking about. You can't just walk in algebra class and the board makes sense to you. No. Once you know these symbols and what's going on, it makes sense to you. And it's actually easy at that point. You be like, oh yeah, that problem, that's nothing. Do. So what I'm saying is people jump to conclusion and say that don't make sense. That ain't it. No, nigga, you ain't been in class long enough. How the fuck you gonna know donde estás if you ain't been in Spanish class? You know what I'm saying? Like how cuál es tu nombre? Like how you gonna know what we talking about if you never been in class long enough? And that's what we dealing with. We dealing with a bunch of grown ass adults who don't want to be in class and ain't been in class long enough. So this shit be making sense, bro. It'll be in plain sight. It'll be right there. You just don't make it make sense for you because you're not paying attention. You paying attention to bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So that's all you gonna know. You gonna know how some bullshit can stir up, how some bullshit can resolve, how some bullshit can happen, because that's what you pay attention to. This shit right here, this should be making perfect sense. The habits that you choose, he talking about a simple way to break habits, but he put it in the food. So if you align food and you start with bad habits, you just gonna run to that bad habit. Man, that should be making sense.
Aware when she smoked was that smoking tastes like shit.
And consciously, when people, like you said, conscious, mindful smoking is when you mindful of what's actually the taste and what's going on. That's why you get these high calibers, because they're mindful. You could go get the most cheapest vodka, cheapest gin, or whatever from the store, and it be harsh, and you scrunch your face up trying to drink it. Or you can go get the top of the line where it's smooth when you drink it, and it actually got a peach or a flavor on it, and you can, and it tastes good when you sip it. You like, yeah, you ain't got to scrunch your face up, but you got to spend more money on that. You could go get some weed that's just like, it's just like it hurts your throat, cough, everything. You about to die. Or you can go get the top of the line to where you inhale, it pull back and it got a flavor on it. You know what I mean? It's got a flavor and it's smooth. It's not harsh to the throat. All of that is mindful smoking, but you got to go to the top of the level to get that. They make it accessible for anybody. You can go get grass. You can go get the dirtiest weed ever for the cheapest ever, but you're gonna have you're gonna have all that effect. Or you go get the top of the line, smoothest, cleanest, and you could just, you know what I mean? Flavor. It's not harsh, and it tastes good. It's mindful smoking, but it's at an elevated pace, at elevated level. You know what I'm saying?
She moved from knowledge to wisdom. She moved from knowing in her head that smoking was bad for her.
Moving from knowledge to wisdom. Knowledge is just knowing. Knowledge is like you smoke the bottom of the barrel, but you know it's some better stuff out there. Wisdom is you going from smoking the bottom of the barrel to you smoking the better of the stuff. Whatever you had to go do to get that extra income, to get that extra whatever, to get to the top level of the, that's wisdom, because you knew it was a higher level and you did what it took to get to that higher level.
In her bones. And this spell of smoking was broken. She started to become disenchanted with her behavior.
It's like when people stop smoking, you realize that not smoking, hey, put that weight down, stop. Oh, here, get it. You realize that not smoking is better than smoking. So that's when become more wise. Excuse me, and you move in that direction.
The prefrontal cortex, that youngest part of our brain from an evolutionary perspective, it understands on an intellectual level that we shouldn't smoke. And it tries its hardest to help us change our behavior, to help us stop smoking, to help us stop eating that second, that third, that fourth cookie. We call this cognitive control. We're using cognition to control our behavior. Unfortunately, this is also the first part of our brain that goes offline when we get stressed out, which isn't that helpful. And we can all relate to this in our own experience. We're much more likely to do things like yell at our spouse or kids when we're stressed out or tired, even though we know it's not going to be helpful. We just can't help ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the prefrontal cortex goes offline, we fall back into our old habits, which is why this disenchantment is so important. Seeing what we get from our habits helps us understand them in a deeper level, to know it in our bones. So we don't have to force ourselves to hold back or restrain ourselves from behavior. We're just less interested in doing it in the first place. And this is what mindfulness is all about. Seeing really clearly what we get when we get caught up in our behaviors, becoming disenchanted on a visceral level, and from this disenchanted stance, naturally letting go. This isn't to say that, poof, magically we quit smoking, but over time, as we learn to see more and more clearly the results of our actions, we let go of old habits and form new ones. The paradox here is that mindfulness is just about being really interested in getting close and personal with what's actually happening in our bodies and minds from moment to moment. This willingness to turn toward our experience rather than trying to make unpleasant cravings go away as quickly as possible. And this willingness to turn toward our experience is supported by curiosity, which is naturally rewarding. What does curiosity feel like? It feels good. And what happens when we get curious? We start to notice the cravings are simply made up of body sensations. Oh, there's tightness, there's tension, there's restlessness, and that these body sensations come and go. These are bite-sized pieces of experiences that we can manage from moment to moment, rather than getting clobbered by this huge, scary craving that we choke on. In other words, when we get curious, we step out of our old fear-based reactive habit patterns and we step into being. We become this inner scientist where we're eagerly awaiting that next data point. Now, this might sound too simplistic to affect behavior, but in one study we found that mindfulness training was twice as good as gold standard therapy at helping people quit smoking. So it actually works. And when we studied the brains of experienced meditators, we found that parts of a neural network of self-referential processing called the default mode network were at play. Now, one current hypothesis is that a region of this network called the posterior cingulate cortex is activated not necessarily by craving itself, but when we get caught up in it, when we get sucked in and it takes us for a ride. In contrast, when we let go, step out of the process just by being curiously aware of what's happening, this same region quiets down. Now we're testing app and online-based mindfulness training programs that target these core mechanisms. And ironically, use the same technology that's driving us to distraction to help us step out of our unhealthy habit.
And you know what I noticed? People value experience. I'm just thinking of this randomly, and it's like people value experience like a motherfucker. Like if they know you got the experience, they'll value it and they'll cherish it just like you cherish it. But if you want some new shit, or if they don't know you for that, and then you try to present that, they gonna tear it down fast. Like, man, you ain't that. So like, example, you might be like, man, peace and quiet, man. I value peace and quiet. Motherfucker, look at you that know you be like, what? You be at the clubs, you be turned, you be yelling on the mic when you playing the game, you be streaming, nigga. What you mean you vibe, nigga? You be doing music, you be what? You? And you be like, yeah, peace and quiet, solitude, man. I just be trying to get my thoughts together. I be sitting there, and niggas will look at you crazy, like what? Somebody that been through like war, like a war veteran, right? From your past experience and them knowing kind of not knowing what you've been through, they'll make that shit silent, or they'll be like, no, he's a war veteran, he needs peace and quiet, and they'll value it for you more than you, right? And it just bothers, like, damn, y'all only value the experience. Like if you look like you knew, motherfuckers ain't. It's only when you look seasoned, they're seasoned.